welcome back to Mystical Sisterhood. This is your host, Maureen Spielman. I am here on my own this week. I knew that I wanted to do an episode around health for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Um, it's a month that is very near and dear to my heart, not because I'm wearing pink every day in any way, shape, or form, but because I have gone through the journey myself. And so I think there's many things to be said about our health, our wellness when it comes to just awareness in general. And so I titled today's episode Be an Advocate for Your Health. Um, and I hope today that there's just takeaways and things that you walk away with to consider implementing or possibly changing in your own life as it has to do with our physical health, but also just a theme of being our own advocate in general. There is nothing like being catapulted into the medical system, as so many people out there know, and learning how to become your own advocate as to what's best for you in your journey. And a lot of times that's not what convention tells you or your conditioning, but what's right for you. And so, that sort of pertains to the medical journey and the hospital journey and if you go along Western medicine journey, but there's a lot of ways we can become advocates in our own lives. And today I am talking about health, but I think that we can become an advocate across many domains, if not all of our lives. So, usually I'm talking about emotional work and spiritual work, which I love, but I actually deeply love what I'm going to talk about today, too. So, this episode is about October and breast cancer getting us here, but I really want to do a huge, wide open armed embrace and just an ode to anyone who is currently traveling this path, who has traveled it in the past, who has traveled it with a loved one. Um, and just a huge embrace and compassion. And like I said, I know firsthand that going through the process and all the ups and downs and the wonderings and the curiosities and the upsets and the setbacks and the disappointments and the fear and the research and the crying and the high parts too, they're all part of it, and we process it when we do as we do. But just raising my cup of coffee this morning to everyone in this moment who has been with someone on the journey, whether it's yourself or a loved one. Um, it is true that almost everywhere we turn on a weekly basis, we learn of someone in our circles or concentric circles who has a diagnosis of cancer. So, as I talk about becoming an advocate today for your physical health, um, you know, hopefully there's some tips in here that we can all use around prevention and treating our physical body in such a way that we are honoring, we know that what we put on it and into it and surround it with is important also for our overall health. So yeah, I'm going to name today just different organizations that I think are either good resources for our journeys in life and prevention and taking care of ourselves. And so take what you will. I'm really curious. As I put together today's episode, I kind of went by what I know. And so feedback from, you, the audience members, and either when I post this on Instagram or through my newsletter this week, or any way that you want to give me feedback, it's hello@maureenspielman.com is my email. But I'm curious because I will add things to a list that, I can send out to people. Um and so as always, no perfection here. All ideas welcome. I'm just going off what I know and try to practice. So, when it comes just to prevention for breast cancer, I would be remiss not to mention that there are great community forums and prevention and what to look for and signs and symptoms for you to just educate yourself on breast health. And for that, breastcancer.org and the Komen.org websites have just so much information. And so, we can educate ourselves through our doctors and through our own education, maybe as well, I was going to say as often as you like. And I had a doctor who always thought it was important, no matter if the federal, I guess, medical guidelines were saying, get your mammogram every 2 years or um, further apart, she always advocated for the annual mammogram. And I had no signs and symptoms at all. And that's how mine was detected in 2018. And so for that, I'm grateful. And I see women posting when they go through it. Remember to get your mammograms. And it is, I know there's controversy about mammograms, and this is not a controversial podcast today, but that's how mine was found. And I, it- by the time it was found, it had traveled to my lymph system. So I tend to be an advocate for annual mammograms because, quite frankly, if I would have waited another year, I don't know what would have happened. But I'll just say that. So I wanted to say that that to begin with. But my world kind of opened up after my mom died, and she had also died of lung cancer. I shouldn't say also, she had died of lung cancer. She had been a lifelong smoker and ended up with small cell lung cancer and hugely correlated with smoking. So there's that right there. But then a friend of mine hosted a party for Beauty Counter, and Beauty Counter, is a direct selling company, which a lot of people off the bat are like, ooh, it's not a good thing because it's a direct selling company, person to person, woman to woman. But I have to tell you that the education that goes on in a company like Beauty Counter kind of opened my eyes, and it opened my eyes to the advocacy I could be doing around personal care products and my own health and the health of my family. And so for me, I was like eternally grateful. And I'm still, on their roster as representing their products because they are a cleaner source for me and for my family. And so I'll put that in the show notes too. But who I learned about, a great organization through Beauty Counter. And let me just say, I had something to say from Greg Renfrew, the founder. What she said is when she went to form that company, which is a very big advocacy company too, going to Washington, D.C. for legislation, she said, and this is 12 years ago, in 2011, I learned that the U.S. bans 30 ingredients from personal care products. And for context, at that time, the EU was at 1,400. And so she started Beauty Counter to set out to transform the beauty industry and created the Never list. And it's made up now of 2,800 questionable or harmful chemicals that they never use in their ingredients or products. I know that there are cleaner companies out there. And so I can, if anyone wants to give me feedback on what they use and what they found, because today is a lot about resources, please do. And it all depends. I remember, when I was educating around cleaner, safer products back then, someone said, well, I'm not going to put that on my face. I would only put like olive oil and avocados on my face or something like that. At the time, I thought like, wow, that's a lot. But I, now I'm like, hey, whatever you want to put on your face. But the truth of the matter is that most of us are using cosmetics and personal care products, and many of them on a daily basis. So when we think about the health repercussions that can have, it's significant. And I think it's an important conversation. And despite all the advocacy I still think it's something it is buried, and I'm going to talk about a little legislation that's going on as well around it. But that's why one of the reasons I wanted to bring it to the forefront today in this conversation around advocacy and advocating for our health is because when I walk into a big brand cosmetic store, unless I'm missing it, I'm not always seeing on the door, an app that's going to help me find the cleanest products. I think things are changing though. And I've seen stores like Sephora um, carrying a lot more cleaner, conscious, health conscious products. And so it's amazing. It's really amazing. One store that we have here in Chicago, and I'm sure they have an online presence, is Credo. It's Credo, and Credo is committed to cleaner products. Again, there's going to be a whole, excuse me, range of what people consider as clean. So that's up to you. Today is just about resources and advocacy. I like to point out, because I think it's really significant, that 6 years ago, when I started doing the advocacy work around personal care products, it was an 80, at that time, I think it was, let me start, a $63 billion industry. I remember that being the number that was quoted, and it was like, oh, blow your socks off, $63 billion industry. And we know that's true because in the US here, there's just so much around appearance and, what's going to create the lease lines and the longevity with our youth. And, those are the lotions, and then the makeup to make us feel prettier or whatever it is. And I'm all in, man. I grew up in a family of girls, and we really liked our products. And I raised my coffee cup to my mom. She did too. So knowing that there's going to be alternatives and resources for us is incredibly powerful for me. So, that $63 billion 6 years ago is now quoted at an $84 billion personal care product industry. And it remains one of the least regulated in the United States. So breast cancer prevention partners, I became aware of their work. It's BCPP, Breast Cancer Prevention Partners. I think via Beauty Counter, they partner with them. And they are doing vigorous research and pursuing health protective cosmetic safety legislation. So I love bcpp.org. I'll put all these resources. I'm going to have a lot today in the show notes, but they do a great job on education. And it's actually kind of fun to go look at their site, I think. They are correlated with the safecosmetics.org, which goes into more information and the campaign for safe cosmetics. And they've got just all these beautiful initiatives, including the non-toxic Black Beauty Project, because there are so many toxic chemicals in the products marketed to Black women. And so the work that they're doing around this non-toxic Black Beauty Project is groundbreaking, I'd say, and just so health promotive and so necessary in this world. Where Beauty Counter has the never list and their ingredients that are questionable, and they do not put in their products, the campaign for safe cosmetics at safecosmetics.org has the red list, and they have different tiers. And they have a tier 1. These are do not use chemicals for everyone. Tier 1, do not use chemicals of greater concern for Black women. They have a tier 1 PFAs, forever chemicals. I believe those are the ones that sometimes coat our clothing. And I've got to look, this might not be right, but I just saw on their site that their site has so much information that REI had committed to discontinuing any products with whatever the chemical was that coats clothing. And so they've committed to take that out of any products they sell in their stores. So if you want details on that, don't ask me, go to bcpp.org. Yeah, so they're tackling the environmental injustice of not only all of our health, but for Black women in particular, in their initiative, Non-Toxic Beauty for Black Women. They've got tips on safer sunscreens, and lots of different guides. So I just wrote out, and I'll share with you, 10 health promoting habits to take on and advocate for. These are always, you can guarantee almost everything I share with you on this podcast is for my own benefit too. Because, sometimes we lose the plot. We have an intention to eat well, do well, by our physical bodies, meditate, whatever it is, um, become a better parent, become a better partner, and we lose the plot. So I'm just going to talk about 10 health promoting habits to take on. And if it can make a change for any of us, I want us to consider that the way we buy is can be culturally, societally conditioned. You may buy the way your parents bought. You may buy because of marketing, advertising. Um, the one that I switched a long time ago was around a cleaner detergent, and I try to look for one with no fragrance and not all the bells and whistles and the colorful, jug with the neat colors on it at Target, and just get cleaner when it comes to that and washing my children's or my family's clothes, or finding a hand soap that is not also like pumpkin flavor for fall and all these things, unless it's just cleaner that's put into it. But I'm going to tell you 10 tips now and name some more resources. Number one is be on the lookout for hormone disruptors in your products. This is really important for, our overall health, breast cancer or breast health, I should say, for sure, because there is something called a xenoestrogen. It's a type of xenohormone, false hormone that imitates estrogen. So for me, I had an estrogen progesterone positive type of breast cancer. And so estrogen, in my most, you know, simple of understanding it, fed or nourished my breast cancer cells, I should say. So, this can come from the outside. So looking for hormone disruptors and in our products is really important. So I'm going to tell you some apps to use in just a little bit. These are just food for thought though. Um, Avoiding fragrance. This is hard for a lot of us because perfumes smell good, right? But the reason I say avoid fragrance or limit it is the word fragrance can cover up a cocktail of ingredients. It can mask carcinogens and hormone disrupting chemicals, and they can be found, fragrance can be found in nearly half of all personal care products. So avoid purchasing and using products with the word fragrance or perfume on the label, and be especially vigilant with children's products. Some of this information I took directly from the Breast Cancer Prevention Partners site. So it's bcpp.org. Oh, I love this one. Number 3, use online tools and official seals. So, um, ditch your old daily routine and replace it with safer beauty products. There's apps that you can put on your phone, including Think Dirty, EWG's Skin Deep, and The Good Guide. I read about another one called Clearya, Clearya. And these apps help us with ratings on our personal care products. You have to have a little bit of extra time to do it, but it's worth it. EWG's Skin Deep has a barcode scanner, and it rates the products from 1 to 10, 1 being the safest at lowest hazard and 10 being the highest. So I love that one. Clearya, I hadn't heard of, but it can alert on ingredients linked to cancer and fertility, baby developmental harm, hormone imbalance, chemicals that are banned in Europe, and ingredients that cause allergic reaction. As we go along, think about which ones of these you're already doing or that you're kind of like, ooh, I want to do that. Number 4, it's a big one for me. It's one, and this is full transparency. Help me with it if you can. Cleaning more naturally, using baking soda to neutralize odors, vinegar to clean, and deodorize. And you can add a cup of vinegar to your laundry to brighten up whites, remove odors. A few drops, BCPP says a few drops of your favorite citrus juice, lemons or oranges, to a vinegar-based cleaning spray to fill your home with a fresh scent. Yeah, and it's one of those areas where I think I'm conditioned, or maybe um I'm just going to say, to purchase something that's a bit stronger. So that's an intention I have for my house and home and health, is to get cleaner with my products. Number 5, decreasing canned foods, always good for us. We've heard this, but a lot of companies now are maybe freeze drying or freezing even um, the foods we can buy. Like if your choice is beans within a bag, maybe it's going to take longer, but it's better not to have the BPA that's in the cans. Same thing goes with 6, getting out of plastic, using less plastic. And the one that I'm looking at is using more glass for my leftovers. I still have some glass, some plastic. So let me know about that. I also heard, a health practitioner say to me, like, just don't drink from the plastic water bottles, especially if you've got a plastic water bottle, like in a hot car. I'm talking about the ones that we didn't grow up with. We didn't, who bought water when we were 8, if you're my age. Come on. That type of water. So bring your own water cup. That might be an easy one for people, but also, we got to plan. We got to plan when our water drinking is going to be, so we're not always buying bottled water. Hey, I did it yesterday when I took my son on a college visit, and I was so thirsty. Did you even know you were thirsty when you were growing up? Ah, geez. 7's an important one too, ditching Teflon pots and pans. So just toxic compounds can be in nonstick cookware. That's really important. One that I learned recently was, well, not learned recently, but did something about it, was protecting myself from the EMFs, the electromagnetic frequency that comes off our phones. And the reason that I did something about it was because my guest a couple months ago, Therese Rowley, who talked about work with children, had a friend who started a company, and it's called Safe Space Protection. And I'll put that link in, safespaceprotection.com. And what I ended up purchasing were these little smart patches that you can put on the back of your phone, and they neutralize the EMFs in 6 feet around you, including your phone. So others whose phones are around you too. This is just like, this energy we can't see, right, in the frequency of these waves. But they're not healthy for us. And so again, they always say don't sleep near your phone. And we've just become so attached to these things. Like, I think, like, well, what if one of my kids texts me in the night and my phone's got to be next to me? Hey, give me some teaching on that one. But I really like the protective field, and safespaceprotection.com also has patches and neutralizing, I guess, products for your like devices at home too, computers, outlets, microwaves. It's pretty cool. Ooh, I heard this is an interesting but funny one. Skip the print, go online. And it's really funny because I saw Matt Damon, it's probably 10 years ago, talking about how he doesn't like take the receipts from the when you go to the bank and get money out. But I do it when I go to my grocery store, because the ink that's used can have BPA or BPA like chemicals on them, and touching them just opens us up to toxic chemical exposure. So those are, God, did I say 10? I think I did. One was demanding, transparency. And I'm going to talk about that in 1 minute with the legislation. So if you are in a workplace that you would like some transparency, and the big one that comes to mind is if you're in the hairdressing industry or know somebody close to you that is, or you have a hairdresser, which is probably 99.9% of America, maybe 95, maybe 90. I don't know. Um, you can ask them, do you advocate? How are the workers being protected? So what I learned through the I think it was BCPP, but it's really great. I know when Beauty Counter was started that the legislation was written protecting our consumer health, and brace yourself, you might fall off your chair, 1938. And so there's been some work, especially done out in California, passing protective bills within the state. But right now on our House floor, and I don't know when these bills will be considered, but there's a safer beauty bill package, and it includes 4 bills. And so really cool. HR 3619 is the Toxic Free Beauty Act of 2023, which would prohibit 11 hazardous chemicals from beauty and personal care products sold in the US that are currently banned by the European Union, California, and Maryland. That gives me chills. HR 3620 is the Cosmetic Safety for Community of Color and Professional Salon Workers Act of 2023, would federally mandate access to translated safety data sheets, funding for research grants to identify chemicals of concern, and health impacts from cosmetics and personal care products used by these communities. HR 3621, the Federal Cosmetic Fragrance and Flavor Ingredient Right to Know Act of 2023, would require companies to publicly disclose a full list of fragrance and flavor ingredients in their products on product labels and websites. And lastly, this encompasses HR 3622, the Cosmetic Supply Chain Transparency Act of 2023, would require upstream suppliers, including fragrance houses, formulating labs, and suppliers of ingredients, finished products, and raw materials, to provide brand owners with the ingredient disclosure, toxicity, and safety data. I think when I was reading about just all this information, there's a HBO Max movie, Not So Pretty. And I've got another movie that's escaping my mind right now that I want to add to the show notes. But I hope that the walk away today is that we're all here for each other, sharing ideas, sharing resources, sharing courage to become your own advocate. And I may have said earlier in the episode, but I had learned that women are the principal buyers for their home. But maybe I think that's a truth, and I think that a lot of my listeners are women. But let's change that. Let's bring men on board caring about what we put on our bodies, what our families are using, because this shouldn't just be a woman's issue. This should be something that we're all sort of advocating for. And I hope that you received one thing of value for you today. And as always, I just looked down at a sheet in front of me. Let me not forget the EWG.org's Shopper's Guide to Pesticides in Produce. That's the one that I meant to put on my list of 10. And they've got the Dirty Dozen, and they have the Clean 15. I'm going to say them real quick for you. The Dirty Dozen are chemicals that are known to have pesticides on the crops. I had a statistic, but I don't know where I put it, about, I think it's like 75% of US products have pesticides that are non-organic. So the Dirty Dozen: strawberry, spinach, kale, collard, and mustard greens, peaches, pears, nectarines, apples, grapes, bell and hot peppers, cherries, blueberries, and green beans. And that's 12. And so these are known to have pesticides when you're not buying organic. And the Clean 15: avocados, sweet corn, pineapples, onions, papayas, sweet peas, asparagus, honeydew melons, kiwi, cabbage, mushroom, mango, sweet potatoes, watermelon, and carrots. And so those are the ones that I think have the least pesticides. But EWG, you can sign up for these 2 guides. And they have like it's a little like rectangle you can cut out and you can keep in your wallet or your purse when you go to the grocery store. So this is just for us as mystical sisters in the mystical sisterhood. Let's keep caring for each other. Let's keep supporting each other in the most expansive of ways. And let's just ensure that our health keeps on getting better and better, instead of falling, victim to things that we can change. And that goes for the emotional, the spiritual, and our physical level. So any questions, comments, I'd love to hear them. You can always find me at maureenspielman.com and email me at hello@maureenspielman.com. And I look forward to being with you in the next episode. As always, I've got my coaching practice on the side where I see women one-on-one, and also the Mystical Sisterhood membership. If you're not a member, consider being one, because we have wonderful conversations in that group with a live call every week and a guest speaker every month. And that's at mysticalsisterhood.com. So I will leave it at that, and, abundant health for us all. Thanks for listening to this episode of Mystical Sisterhood. To learn more about my one-on-one coaching programs or join the Mystical Sisterhood membership, visit maureenspielman.com or mysticalsisterhood.com. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next episode.